Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Delta State, my brother, my friend, a man that I'm extremely proud of, our traditional rulers, Chairman of PDP, distinguished senators here present, Speaker, House of State Assembly, honorable members of Federal House of Assembly, distinguished private sector leaders, honorable commissioners in the state, Excellency Deputy Governor, as they say in Nigeria, all protocols observed, please. I'd like to start by thanking the Governor of Delta State and his team for two principal reasons. One is, as we celebrate Democracy Day in our country, most people or leaders usually approach it from a political slant, or at times mostly celebratory, because it's Independent Democracy Day. But here in Delta, we have our governor and his team who have thought it wise and feel that instead of just having parties to mark the Democracy Day, that they should do something that I consider extremely catalytic and something that is foundational, which is to organize a forum like this to further bring to the fore the importance of the bottom in our economic endeavor as a people, as a state, and as an economy. So I'd like to commend His Excellency for the vision to decide that instead of making parties, we should be discussing about the micro and small-scale enterprises and how to create a new future for Delta State beyond oil. So, Excellency, congratulations and well done. Second reason is, even from the theme of today's session, it's like planning a new anchor for economic development for Delta State beyond oil. There's what is called a resource cost. Statistically, historically, most states, most countries that have this kind of oil resource hardly ever do well, apart from a few who have broken that cost. And for a governor and his entire leadership at the state level to decide that we need to look inwards to see how we can begin to develop other sectors that will help us remain a viable state post, even beyond oil, I think is extremely, extremely commendable. Most times, we are used to hearing of small-scale enterprises or small-scale and medium enterprises. This is one of the few times, in fact, to me, the only time I'm attending a forum in our shores, in our country, that goes below the small scale to talk of micro. We talk of microfinance everywhere, every time, but this is not just talking about microfinance, it's talking about micro businesses. It is unique, it's different, it is bottom-up entrepreneurship, it's bottom-up economic development, and this is exactly the economic practice that is sustainable. So I think for our people of Delta State, all we need to do is to encourage the state government, the governor and his team to encourage on this path. We need to engage our people. I tell people always that one of the reasons we have crime in societies is because there's no economic hope. Economic hope is best democratized when you take it down. Not many people are able to set up big companies, high-tech companies. But when we begin to give priority and attention and emphasis and focus to the rural, the micro businesses, then we begin to, in my viewpoint, fundamentally address the issue of economic development, issue of crime, issue of unemployment, issue of youth engagement, etc. So I'd like to commend our governor for this and his team. When I got this invitation, I asked myself, beyond looking at the micro, small scale, and medium scale enterprises for data beyond oil, what should one really be talking about? And I thought I should remind us briefly about our history as a state and take it from there and allow today's speakers to help us do more justice to this discussion. First, Delta State, as we all know, is a very rich state, rich in terms of our natural endowments, rich in terms of the caliber of people we produce. In fact, I say to people that Delta produces an inordinate number of human capital for this country. If you look at the private sector, you have a lot of Delta people who have excelled and who are excelling. At no point in time do you have less than 5-6 Delta State indigenes as CEOs of Nigerian banks, for instance. If you look at the top 20 in terms of market capitalization of Nigerian Stock Exchange, at least about 30% of those companies are also run by Delta State indigenes. So from private sector perspective, Delta State has really done so much in terms of human capital development and contribution to this country's development. If you look at the public sector also at federal level, I need not tell you our children who are playing key roles at the federal level. And this is part of a resource endowment in Delta State that we need to be proud of, and we also need to exploit in charting ahead the course for our economic development. In terms of population, we have a population of 4.5 million, and this is not small. Delta at 4.5 million population is bigger than 19 other African countries. So we're not a small, we're a mini country in Nigeria. Now, if you look at the GDP of Nigeria, of Delta State has about $16.8 billion in terms of GDP. Again, compared with other African countries, this is about, it means Delta State is bigger or larger in terms of economic size than about 30 other African countries. So this is not a small state. In terms of geographical location of Delta State, we have a lot of some African countries that are landlocked countries. We have some African countries that don't even have the ports, the sea access, etc. that we have here. So Delta is uniquely positioned to do well as a state. I call Delta a mini Nigeria. We have everything that the country has, or almost everything the country has. And we're bigger in terms of population than some African countries. We're bigger also in terms of size of economy. But we can grow Delta even bigger, and I believe that's why the governor and his team have assembled all of us today to discuss about this tier of our society beyond the oil. But let's look back to where we started from. I like to, in my free time, read history of nations, history of states, etc. And for Delta State, my history recollection tells me that way back to 1800 and 1800, between 15 and 1800, we had slavery. So in terms of economic history, Delta as a state has been quite active. But slavery, unfortunately, is not the kind of positive economic activity that we're proud of. But we've had it. Unfortunately, it came with its own scare. It depleted our resources. We will not say it had any positive economic impact, but it was something that occurred in this state at some point in the past. We also had, around the 1990s, early 90s, palm oil trade between Delta and the rest of the world. But in this case, and someone talked about the knife for the palm oil, in this case, more of extraction, more of taking the oil. We're not producing the oil or processing it in Nigeria or in Delta State. And so it was more of taking away and no value is added, because in the production chain, it is that level area sector where you produce, process, that you create value for the local economy. So nothing really happened in terms of economic benefits to us. Then post or from late 90s is advent of oil also from the 90s. And again, that is about extraction and not necessarily adding real value to our local economy. So as we create this kind of forum, as we celebrate democracy, and as the governor calls all of us to a new approach of bottom-up entrepreneurship, I thought it presents to all of us an opportunity as Delta State people and leaders to begin to think of, okay, if we had slave trade, we had a palm oil trade, we've had oil, and yes, we managed to grow our economy to where it is today in terms of size, but we can do more and even a lot more. And that's why the governor is calling us here today to say, what do we do as a state going forward? That we need to maybe begin to think of a new paradigm, new way of doing things. In my world, I've come up with a certain terminology I call Afri-capitalism, which is, or for what we're doing today, let's call it Delta capitalism. It's more of how we can redo things for maximum benefits of society. How can we make investments that will help to create economic wealth, that will create economic prosperity, as well as create social wealth for everyone? To do this, there are 4 pillars we need to build on. I'd like to share this briefly before I leave. First is what I call Africans for Africa, but I will relate it to Deltans for Delta. And so Deltans for Delta means that nobody is going to develop Delta State for us. We have to work together to develop Delta State. We have to show example. Charity, they say, starts from home. So those who are in doubt, we should begin to. It's so easy in Nigeria, in Delta, for us to criticize government. Government is not doing well, government can do this. But at times, we also fail to ask ourselves what we can do to help create a better society while making money. I'm not, but I like to make money. But I believe you make money, you can do good while you're making money. So my call is every Delta person. I like the documentary we watched, and the young man said, I don't think I'll work for government because I earn 250,000 naira a month. That is self-independence, self-sufficiency. And if I listened well to that documentary, I heard about 2.something million naira that was given, 10 million that was given, significant amounts that are not so significant to some people, but they have huge benefits to others. And these others, the micro, the small, and co. So I would like us, as we have this kind of forum, to reflect, especially the well-to-do Delta people. What are we doing to invest in the state to help show the way so that others will say, okay, if they are demonstrating confidence in their state, we too will follow. So it's one.